Right now, almost 400,000 kilometers above your head, there's an American flag sitting on the moon, and in the footage from 1969, it's waving. There's just one tiny problem with that. The moon has no air, no wind, no breeze, nothing to wave at. So either we're looking at something impossible, or somebody, somewhere, made a very expensive mistake. Welcome to the biggest conspiracy on planet Earth, drawn entirely in crayon. Here's the deal. Tonight we're looking at the 4 reasons people swear the moon landing was faked. The waving flag, the missing stars, the impossible shadows, and a wall of radiation that should have cooked everyone on board. And I'll be honest with you, when you line them all up, it looks bad. Really bad. But then we did the annoying thing. We looked up the actual science, and every single answer turned out to be stranger than the conspiracy. So stick around, because by the end of this, the scary part won't be whether it was fake, it'll be what it means if it was real. Let's start with the flag, because it's the one everybody remembers. You plant a flag on the moon. No wind, so it should just hang there, limp, sad, like a wet sock on a stick. Instead, in the video, it ripples, it shimmies, it looks like it's flapping in a warm summer breeze on a world with no air. And honestly, if you stop right there, the conspiracy wins. Case closed. Kubrick, take a bow. But here's what the spooky edits never show you. Look at the top of the flag. There's a horizontal pole, a rod, sewn into the fabric, holding it open. Because NASA knew there was no wind. So they built a flag that holds itself up, a little metal coat hanger, for patriotism. So why does it move? Because every time an astronaut grabs that pole and twists it into the ground, the flag wobbles. And here's the cool part. On Earth, the air would stop that wobble almost instantly. But on the moon, there's no air to slow it down. So it just keeps going. Way longer than it ever could down here. So the waving flag isn't proof we faked it. The waving flag is proof there's no air, which is exactly where it's supposed to be. Plot twist number 1. The thing that looks the most fake is the most real. But okay, the flag, I'll give them. What about the fact that in every single photo, there are no stars? This one feels like a slam dunk. You're standing on the moon. No atmosphere, no clouds, no city glow. It should be the greatest view of the stars in human history. And the photos? Pure black, empty, nothing up there at all. How do you forget the stars? The conspiracy says, simple. The set designers forgot to paint them in. But think about your phone for a second. Have you ever tried to take a photo of a friend at night with a bright streetlight right behind them? You get one of 2 things. You see your friend, or you see the background. Never both. Because the camera has to choose how much light to let in. Now, the surface of the moon in daytime is blindingly bright. Raw sunlight bouncing straight off the ground with nothing to soften it. The astronauts' white suits were practically glowing. So the cameras were set for that. Bright suit, bright ground. Quick shutter, tiny opening. And at those settings, the faint little stars don't stand a chance. They're just too dim to show up. It's not that the stars were missing, it's that the moon was too bright to let you see them. Try it tonight. Stand next to a campfire and photograph the sky. You'll get the exact same empty black nothing. No conspiracy required. Fine, the stars make sense, but the shadows, oh, the shadows are where it gets weird. Here's the big one, the one even clever people get stuck on. On the moon, there's only one source of light, the sun. One sun means all the shadows should point the exact same way, like a parking lot at noon. Every shadow neat, every shadow parallel. But in the Apollo photos, The shadows go everywhere. One points left, one points right. One's long, one's short. They cross each other. And if there's only one sun, then there must be a second light, a studio light, a spotlight, the smoking gun, right? Here's the thing your brain is quietly forgetting. The moon isn't a flat parking lot. It's covered in bumps, craters, hills, dips, and rocks. And when a shadow falls across a slope, it bends, it stretches. It looks like it's pointing a brand new direction, even though the sun hasn't moved a single inch. Then add perspective. You already know this one. Stand on a train track and look into the distance. The two rails look like they lean toward each other until they touch, but they're perfectly parallel. Your eyes just flatten the distance. Same exact trick with long shadows stretching toward the horizon. They look like they're spreading apart, but they aren't. It's just your eyes doing what eyes do. One sun, bumpy ground, a wide camera lens. That's the whole illusion. No spotlight, no soundstage, just geometry being annoying. And look, I know what you're thinking. Fine. The flag, the stars, the shadows, maybe those have answers. But none of it matters if the astronauts could never have survived the trip in the first place. Because between us and the moon, there's an invisible wall, and it should have killed them. Wrapped around the Earth, there are two enormous rings of radiation. They're called the Van Allen belts. Invisible, gigantic, full of high-energy particles flying around at unthinkable speeds. And to reach the moon, you have to fly straight through them. The conspiracy crowd says no human could pass through that and live, so the astronauts must have stayed safely on Earth, on a soundstage, sipping coffee. And here's the uncomfortable part. The radiation is real. The belts are real. This one is not made up. So how did they survive? Two reasons. First, speed. NASA didn't drift slowly through the worst of it. They aimed for the thinnest edge of the belts, and they crossed it in well under an hour. You don't get burned walking quickly past a campfire. Same idea. The danger is real, but only if you linger. And they did not linger. Second, the spacecraft itself blocked a good chunk of it. Add it all together, and the astronauts got a dose of radiation about the same as a few chest X-rays. Not nothing, but nowhere near deadly. The wall is real. They just found the thin spot and ran. So they could survive. The photos make sense, but there's one question the science can't dodge so easily, and it might be the creepiest one of all. If Neil Armstrong was the first human to ever step onto the moon, then who was already down there, filming him do it? This is my favorite one, because it sounds genuinely impossible. We've all seen the footage. Grainy, black and white. Neil Armstrong climbing down the ladder. That first boot touching the dust. One small step. But wait, he is the first man on the moon. He's the first one out the door. So who is standing on the surface, pointing a camera back at the ladder to film him coming down? There's nobody there yet. The footage shouldn't exist. Cue the goosebumps. Except it wasn't a person. Folded up against the side of the lunar lander, there was a little tray. And on that tray, a camera, already mounted, already pointed right at the ladder. Before Armstrong climbed down, he pulled a cord. The tray swung open, and the camera switched on, all by itself. No cameraman, no film crew, just a fold-out arm and a pull string set up before a single boot hit the ground. The footage isn't impossible. Someone just thought ahead. Which, honestly, is kind of beautiful. They knew the whole world would want to watch, so they made sure the camera was already rolling. So that's the four big ones: flag, stars, shadows, radiation, and the ghost cameraman. Every gotcha has an answer, but I promised you the scary part, so let's talk about it. Here's what finally got me. In 1969, the United States and the Soviet Union hated each other. Truly. They were locked in a race to the moon, and the Soviets were watching the Americans the entire way. Their own radios, their own telescopes, tracking every signal. If it had been faked, they would have been the first to scream it to the entire planet. It would have been the greatest humiliation in history. They never said a word because they were tracking the real thing. And it gets better. The astronauts left mirrors on the moon, little reflective panels. And to this day, scientists on Earth fire lasers at them and the light bounces straight back. The mirrors are still up there. Somebody put them there. And 400,000 people worked on the Apollo program. 400,000. Try getting 400 people to keep a secret. Try getting 4. So, did we go? Yeah, we almost certainly did. But here's the part that should keep you up tonight. We went to the moon with computers weaker than the phone in your pocket, less power than a basic calculator. We strapped 3 humans to a giant bomb, lit it, and threw them at a rock 250,000 miles away, and then brought them home. And then we just stopped. No human has stood on the moon since 1972. We did the impossible thing, and then we put it in a drawer. So maybe the real conspiracy isn't that we never went. Maybe it's that we did, and we can't seem to do it again. Sleep well. If your brain feels slightly broken right now, good. That's the entire point of this channel. Subscribe so you're here when the brain produces the next one. And tell me in the comments which one had you most convinced. Be honest. It was the cameraman, wasn't it?